I can reuse it.
Yep.
How many times can you reuse it?
Depends on how much film you're doing and how long you're doing it in, but I'm using like a developer that I can add replenisher to this, so that once it gets exhausted, I can add a couple drops of replenisher and it will make it working solution again. But honestly, it'll last probably about a month of, with minimal like average use.
Right.
I would say you could probably do 40 to 60 rolls of film with a gallon of developer. Just all depending on how quickly you do it,
So now you rinse it and then you put in the fixer.
Yep. Giving it a rinse for about a minute. I would say at least 3 times, like filling it up and dumping it out at least 3 times to get any sort of developer out of it. A lot of times they'll want you to use what's called like stop bath, and that will neutralize any of the developer. But using water rinse, and rather than like just doing one water rinse and taking this water for 2 minutes trying to rinse it like this, doing multiple water changeovers will do a good enough job diluting the developer so that it's not going to get into the fixer. So. That in. And the fixer is anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. The older the fixer is, the longer you're going to want to fix for. But there's stuff called hypocheck, and you can use this to test the fixer. And based on what you evaluate how good the fixer is, you do your development in time according. Technically that fixer could last us 9 months to a year in a fully stopped up bottle with very little air and with little use. But as long as we check the fixer and it's still viable, then it'll stay good for a lot longer than the developer. The black and white developer is 3 weeks to a month, maybe 2 months if you're really lucky and doing a good job of keeping it full with the lid tight, no air getting to it. It's mainly about like the oxidization of the.
But do you choose the time based on the film speed, or you can use the same time for all black and whites?
For fixing is just fixing. It's making fixer, regardless of what black and white film it is, 5 minutes is going to be adequate. 3 minutes is adequate with brand new fixer mixed up. But developer is what develops your image, and time and temperature with your developer is what's going to affect the ISO, the contrast, any of that.
So depending on the film you shot, you're going to use the developer to do that.
Right, and there's different charts out there. There's different resources out there. A lot of the times it'll say on the pack of film, but depending on what type of black and white developer you're using, it's going to give a different development time for HB5, TMAX 100, TMAX 400, but they're usually roughly in the 6 to 7 minute mark. There's some films like KODAK 3200, which is maybe a 10-minute developing time. It says it's 3200 ISO, but it's actually 800 ISO film that they make you push develop to make 3200, and maybe it's more manufactured to be pushed.
Right.
It's better to do that, but
and then with the fixer, you also like
goes
swing
back
it back and forth like that.
Yep. And this is basically just to make sure that the film is evenly coated with a fixer. There's no air bubbles that have been stuck to the film, or and also just to give it new fixer. If it's just sitting still, the fixer will do its job, but having new fixer come in to replenish it. And you can't really over fix. You can, but adding 2 more minutes to fixer is only going to make it dilute, make it more permanent, with like eliminating all the developer. The biggest thing is, after you're done fixing, is doing a good water rinse, a good 5-minute rinse with the water on the film, to be able to get all that fixer off of it. Because you won't notice it now, but when you look at your negatives in 4 or 5 years, if you didn't do a good job fixing, they'll start turning colors, they'll start fading, they'll start doing all this stuff. But negatives should last 100 years, not 4 or 5.
That's cool. So now you put the water in there.
So now I put the water in. Yep. And technically now the film is light tight or light safe. So exposing it to light is not going to affect the film any longer. But there we go. Just let that do its thing for a minute, and then hang it up to dry. And if we wanted to get fancy, I could over here. It's just introducing air.
And what does this do?
So this is just does a better job of, instead of dumping water into the container here and having it swirl around and come back out the top, this is mixing water and air at the bottom of the container and then bringing it up and out. So technically you can stack multiple rolls in here.
In there.
But if I cover the air holes, you see, it's not really that much water that's being used. So it's also a way to
it
save
just
a little.
Looks like it's boiling up.
Yeah, because the design of this has 2 air holes that when water passes it, it also sucks in air and allows it to do a really good job of rinsing the film. So that will speed up your washing time. Instead of 5 minutes, you only need a minute of this.
That's cool. So I have photos on there.
Yep, full roll. Looks pretty good. So all I do is